and of course silly YouTube videos all spread through human networks, just like viruses do. And what we do is we use the power of network science to generate large-scale behavioral change in organizations. What we basically do is map the internal connections, identify influencers who are basically the generators of these change in the organization. And just to start with statistics that I think maybe you've heard of, but it's still shocking, I think. 70% of change projects fail, according to several well-acknowledged sources, from McKinsey to IBM, so on. And it all goes back to the human and the social factor behind these change processes. So a lot to do with the way we are communicating changes. There's only the top-down way of communication, underestimating the emotions and informal connections, and of course sometimes the organization is unprepared for what is going to happen with them. And at the end of the day, it usually comes back to a high level of resistance from employees, and these are all at the end resulting in 70% of the change initiatives somehow not getting through, not being successful. And as Taylor mentioned, we invite you to take part in a short poll where we are asking you to answer a short question. The question is, which of these have you encountered that you believe to be a result of non-effective change management communication? And please select, even you can select more of these possibilities, and then click on submit at the end. So, but after you've done so, we will be able to see, what your responses were around these issues. I guess it's really about the human aspect here, but of course there are several parameters and dimensions that have to do with more the formal communication and the processes. But here, please just click to the responses you feel apply to your organization, and then we'll see the results soon. Okay, so let's move on. We're almost done. I mean, we just have to wait. We have 78% of people already voted. So please, if you feel like it, just click on the right choices. Okay, and here you see the results. There are some. It seems like most of the people or the participants encountered several of these issues. So people losing their motivation and their engagement, lots of gossips, misunderstandings around these change initiatives, a lot of resistance. It seems like the dispute between the management isn't that important problem or that frequent issue, but also the credibility of the management is something that usually comes up with these initiatives. And so the next thing I think which is important about the changes is that we think that when something happens around us, anything that we have to do before is changing, and we start to become feeling uncomfortable. That's something that is a psychological process. On the other hand, what organizations are focusing on when something is changing, even if it's a change in ERP system or it's a change in organizational structures, what happens is we start to communicate through formal channels, newsletters, the CEO holding a presentation, we put information on the intranet, of course, and also use company systems as well to communicate these changes. The real problem is with this, I mean, in itself, it's not a problem because, of course, people like to be informed on what's going to happen. But what is really happening, as I mentioned before, is a psychological process. Some of you might be familiar with this model which has been developed by Kubler-Ross, and it's about grieving, losing something. This is actually what happens during a change process as well. You were doing something maybe even for years the same way, and then somebody comes up and tells you, no, let go of your current IT system, and you have to start using SAP, or you have to move to a new office, or you have to work together with different people. Of course, the first thing that happens is you deny the whole thing. So you say, oh no, this is not going to happen. It's just some fake. It's a rumor or something. Then when you realize that it actually is going to happen, then you really become angry and frustrated and start to have a lot of emotions coming up. And the next step, of course, is you start bargaining, saying, okay, maybe if I move to a different office, then I still will have to do the same things as before. It's just maybe I can agree with my boss that all other people have to do something differently, but if I make an agreement, then it won't influence my work. Okay, the next day, of course, you have to realize that you will have to do something differently. So you become depressed, and you go to the bottom of this emotional curve. And if you have enough information and you have people around you who you trust and who can give you valuable information on, what is going to happen with you, what are going to be the next steps, and why is this change actually going to be good for you, then you start to move up the scale, and you start to realize the opportunities in the change, and of course at the end accept it and even be optimistic about it. But the main, I think, information here is for each of these steps, you don't need formal information. You need someone who you trust, who is influencing what you think, and those are the people who you are asking when something is changing. When you're angry, when you're depressed, you don't want information through the newsletter. You want somebody to properly explain, what is going to happen and even, take care of you. So this is why it's important to also focus on informal channels and informal networks in the organization, which will at the end of the day influence the way people accept the change. Just to show you the impact of informal communication, on the left side here you see the social network from an online survey showing how people are communicating with each other about changes in the organization. The same on the right side. The difference is on the left side, the orange node resemble the management, the senior management of the company. On the right side, we have highlighted the top influencers who have been identified through our organizational network analysis survey. So they received the most nominations throughout this questionnaire. And what we are going to show you is the difference of how many people they reach with their influence in this network if they start to spread some kind of information starting from management on the left side or from the influencers on the right side. So the first step, already you can see that management reaches some people, but the influencers reach like more than 3 times as many people as management do. You can follow the spread of information here, and at the end of the day what we see is influencers reach really 3 times more people through their connections than management do. Of course, this is informal connections, but the most important part is that you can map it, and you are able to identify the hidden influencers within your organization. And why is it important? Just an example. We had a client who was complaining that They had all sorts of problems with gossips. For instance, they sent out 2 different newsletters to people within the organization. The first one was about moving to a new office. And then, several, weeks later, they sent out another email where they were, communicating about, laying off or having to say goodbye to 20 people from the team. And the shocking thing came when people started to approach the HR director of the company and asking him, hey, what happened? What happened? I mean, probably the management found an office which is too small, and they made the decision to still, rent out the office, but because the office is too small, we have to fire 20 people. But actually, the 2 informations were not connected at all. People just started to combine these 2 information pieces like a puzzle. And again, if you go back to the emotional curve, this is what happens when you put in some kind of information on change. People start to become, frustrated or have some kind of negative feelings. And if you add additional information, they will start to put together these puzzles. And if there's nobody who they trust and is influencing their thinking about the changes, then this is what will happen. There will be all sorts of misunderstandings and gossips going all around the organization. And I think an important point is, what is the difference between other approaches of understanding organizations and mapping the connections is, from an annual survey, what you would be able to see here, for instance, is that people feel uninformed. Most of the people say that they don't receive enough amount of information on change. On the other hand, you don't really know, why this is happening and what you can do as an intervention to change this situation. On the other hand, from looking into networks, looking into how people are communicating about changes within the organization, you see something completely different, which will help you to manage the whole change process. In this case, you see all of these nodes around. These are part of the management of the manufacturing firm. Here you see the top management members. These are the middle management members above them. And already on the left side here, you see lower level managers who are working at the factory sites. They are connected if they responded that they talk with each other about changes within the organization. Of course, I don't know, just by looking at this, can you spot what could be causing, gossips or people under lower levels being uninformed on changes? Well, of course, if you look at this network, you will see that there are lots of missing links from middle management to the lower level supervisors and team leaders. There's a great gap here. And so what's happening is top management are making the decisions, having a lot of discussions, being connected. Then, of course, they explain, the processes and the change to the middle management members, which is, great. On the other hand, middle management is not sharing the information and not really explaining the information to lower level managers. Okay, there's somebody here probably having a cigarette with somebody in this factory side, but on the other hand, all other middle management members are not connected to the supervisors, so they are not discussing these change-related issues. What you see here on the other hand is supervisors and lower-level managers talking a lot about changes. Those are gossips, of course. And if we move on here, we will have now another poll we would like to ask you related to change communication. The question is, which change agents do you think are more motivated and accepted by their peers? Please select one of the following. Those that were nominated by management, meaning that the manager says that, hey, look, here's this change workshop, I think you should take part in it. Those nominated by their colleagues, meaning that their colleagues say that you should be representing us through this change process, or it might be the same level of motivation and engagement. We already have 73% of votes now, which is going up now, so soon we will be closing the vote. Yeah, we already have 81%, 85 already, so we're just going to close it now and see the responses. Well, it's not a real surprise, I think, but you have said that, I mean, 86% of you said that the change agents who were nominated by their colleagues will be much more motivated and, of course, accepted by their peers. I think we will talk a lot about this with Zsófi and Anita as well, because they can share their experiences of how motivated and engaged people are when they are not assigned to a task, but people ask them to represent them in this kind of process. Okay, so again, coming back to our initial question, how can we build an effective team of change agents? Well, first of all, we need to find the right criteria. What sort of change agents are we looking for, or what type of influence in the group is interesting during a change process? Again, we will, touch this topic with Zsófi, but I think it's really important to have a profile of the change agents you are looking for, which of course we can, help anyone with to specify. But at the end of the day, we really feel that you should have people who are influencing innovation, who are initiating new thoughts and processes, people who are recognized as professional experts in the organization, people who are great at problem solving or energizing other people within the organization, who are popular and have a lot of connections in the organizations, and also general information hubs who share a lot of information throughout these networks. I think it's important to have these different attributes in the group, because during a change process you will need all of these. I mean, you will need a lot of new ideas once you're stuck in a situation, and problem solvers to get through these situations, and energizers who are pumping all the energy into the group, and also you need people who at the end of the process will go back to their people and talk about it and explain, and they will spread the word out to all employees in the organization. But the next step is also, I think, is even sometimes more important to involve these change agents in a process. So you cannot use identified influential people as asking them to read up some kind of text from a textbook and tell them, hey, look, this is what is going to happen. Here's a document. Please read through and share with your colleagues. This is not the way it works. They are usually the most independent people, and they will read just the same way as other people would. So you have to involve them and give them space to share their ideas, fine-tune these programs, have participation from them, and ideas that will shape the whole change process. Again, we will talk about this with Zsófi, I think, as well, and Anita. And what happens if we are able to involve these influential people and have them motivated? What will happen is people and employees will learn faster about new processes. They will adapt much quicker to these changes. There will be much less resistance because they understand from their credible, trusted sources what is going to happen. They will have, of course, great new ideas as well. So some things that wouldn't come from management, but people who are actually doing the daily work can have some great ideas for the whole change initiative. So you win a lot of energy and a lot of new things for the whole process. And at this phase, I'm really happy that we have Zsófi and Anita here with us. So yeah, I would give the word back to Taylor now.
Yep, and I'll be happy to introduce these two guest speakers that we have today. So as I mentioned earlier, and as Andres just mentioned, we have Sophia Egri. She's actually the learning and development expert at E.ON in Hungary, although she's just relocating to E.ON in Germany since she's taken on an international assignment. And we've actually done 2 projects with her at E.ON, both of them change agent identification with ChangeMapper. And shortly after her will be Anita, and she's actually a partner and consultant at OD Partner, an organizational development consultancy. She's certified in OrgMapper, and she's also an expert in combining appreciative inquiry with social network analysis. We've worked with her on multiple projects, and she's going to be talking about 2 cases today where she used ChangeMapper. So we're going to hand this over to you, Zsófi, if you're all set.
Yeah, so hi Zsófi. Are you here with us? Hello Zsófi, do you hear us? Hello, Zsófi, do you hear us? Okay, so maybe we'll try to connect with Zsófi during the process, but I would then go to Anita. So Anita, are you able to hear us now?
I'm hearing you. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes. Just a second.
Now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We see it.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Anita Frisch, and I will be talking about appreciative inquiry and change agent. Actually, this is the methodology that I've been doing mostly in the past 2 or 3 years, working with appreciative inquiry and most of the time working with the ChangeMapper or finding change agents with the help of organizational network analysis. There are 3 things that I would like to talk about today. One of them is appreciative inquiry in itself, because I'm sure that some of you know appreciative inquiry or AI. Some of you might know it very well, but I'm pretty sure that there are some of you who don't know this process or this methodology. After introducing AI, I'm going to talk about 2 cases. In both cases, we work with AI and work with change agents. And the good thing is that I can also compare with other projects where we didn't use the organizational network analysis for different reasons. And first of all, some background. AI is a methodology that was developed in the 1980s, in 1985 by David Cooper-Ryder. And just as a background story, and I really love this story, this was actually the second AI project, but the first that was done in a business setting. It was done for the Cleveland Clinic, who just acquired a hotel that was very close to the clinic's buildings. It was called Omni Hotel. It was a very badly run hotel. The picture you see on the right-hand side of the screen is not actually of the hotel, but this is how you can imagine it. And please imagine the clinic. It is really one of the best clinics in the United States, state-of-the-art facilities. So this hotel right next to the clinic that very often patients and of course their relatives use while they were receiving treatment was giving a very bad reputation for the clinic itself. patients were complaining to the clinic, even though it was not their hotel. So they acquired it, they bought up the hotel, and tried to influence the management to change the hotel to a better one. And none of the traditional approaches were working. The management was not working together. They were blaming each other for the problems. They actually involved some consultants as well, but there were some workshops where the management didn't even show up. And after a while, they invited David Cooper-Ryder, who tried a completely different approach and simply took the management of Omni Hotel to Chicago to a 5-star hotel and asked them to watch this 5-star hotel for a week and note everything that they are doing right. They were forbidden to talk about their own hotel for a week. They were forbidden to notice the things that were not working well, because even in a good 5-star hotel there will be such things. And the remarkable thing is that at the end of the week, this management had a feeling of success that made them turn to each other. They presented their findings to the 5-star hotel's management, which was a great success. And by the time they got back to their own hotel, they were ready for change. And even though it would be really nice to do this with our own companies, can you imagine that you could visit your biggest competitor, who is actually doing a lot better than you are maybe, and watch how they are doing things and then simply copy that? I think it would be nice. It would be nice for us as well. But it's not possible. They wouldn't let us watch them actually. And also there is another reason why there should be another method, is that probably we don't know our own organization as much as we could. So after this initial AI project, the next AI project didn't look at the competitor, simply looked at the organization itself. Because if you think about it, when you want to develop something in your organization, let's say cooperation or communication, very often those desired behaviors are in the organization. It happens. It just doesn't happen every day. It might be an exception to the rule. Or it happens in some parts of the organization, but it doesn't happen in other parts. So you could also look at change processes in a way that they are exceptionally good behaviors. We just have to spread it to everyday practice to the whole organization. And this is what AI is based on. It is asset-based, so looks at the things that are already there, that are our strengths. That's what it focuses on, and then tries to spread it around the organization. Why is that good? Because simply this gives a lot more energy to change processes. Probably you joined this webinar because you are interested in change processes and have experienced that the first change, people might be motivated, especially if it's a change for the better. But when change after change after change happens, it's very easy to lose the energy. Appreciative inquiry, I think these two words describe the methodology quite well. Appreciate, we look at the positives, and inquire, so the basis of this methodology are interviews that are not done by consultants, that happens very often, but are carried out by the organization members themselves. So they go around the organization and ask questions from their peers, their managers, their employees, about good examples regarding the focus that is given to the change, let's say communication or cooperation or even workplace safety. AI goes through 5 steps. First is, of course, the definition phase. We have to define what we want to change, what is the focus of the inquiry. And the second step that I've already talked about, probably the biggest and most time-consuming step, is interviewing or exploring the organization for these good examples. And then we have 2 steps, dream and design, where we actually formulate where we want to go. So what does the organization look like that is doing all these things every day? And then make this as concrete as possible. And then probably plan some actions to get there. So where is the role of change agents? Mostly in the whole process, but they are usually the ones who are interviewing in the organization. So they are the ones who go around the organization and talk to people, and then they are the ones probably or most often together with the other management members who set up the dream and also design this organization and then carry out the action steps that they formulated. The two cases that I want to show you are quite similar, but the reason why I'm showing you is that the first one was a classical process and the second one wasn't classical in two criteria. One of them, it didn't go through the whole AI circle, but this might not be so interesting for you at the moment. But why it could be interesting, because this was we could call it a speed organizational network analysis. We had a very limited time and still could find those opinion leaders that could carry out the project together with us. So this first project that I want to show you was at T-Systems, which is a daughter company of Deutsche Telekom and the Hungarian telecom company. And it was a very interesting merge at the beginning of 2012, because the company was buying up small IT companies. They have been doing that for a couple of years by then. But still, these smaller IT companies were operating independently. And then in 2012, they were merged into one company. Can you imagine those IT people who were working for 50, 100, maybe 300 employee companies, and then from one day to the other, they woke up and went to work for a 2,000 employee company. It was quite a shock, and among other processes, we were supporting them in making this merge, this integration more fluid or more successful. In the definition phase, 4 topics were identified: motivation and rewards, client focus, shared culture, and profitable innovation. The next step was to do the network analysis. We identified those criteria that would define people as change agents, just as András talked about a couple of minutes ago. We did the polling, and in the end we had 80 change agents who carried out 480 interviews in the company. And this was not a big time frame, so I think they had 3 weeks to carry out the interviews. And as you can imagine, for them, just doing the interviews was a great way towards integration, because, of course, we asked them and they chose respondents in a way that they could meet those people that they've never met before, but now were in the same company as they were. We put all these results together with the change agents, and by the end of the process, these change agents, together with the top management, proposed 31 actions that helped them to go forward with integration. What we were surprised at, even though we carried out with different methodologies similarly successful change processes, but usually the results were not so fast. In 3 months, half of these were finished. So they completed what they set up as a goal. These people were very motivated, and these projects were led by the change agents. They did have a top management sponsor, and they did have the top management support, but they were the ones who were carrying out very different projects towards a shared culture and the shared company. And this is the company actually that used these change agents very well at this stage. And a year later, when they didn't define other projects, the change agents were approaching HR and asking them what the AI group could do together again. Since then, they've been given other responsibilities as well. They were very eager to continue this process. My other case is a bank, Erste Bank, and I'm not going to tell you in detail, but banks are not in a good situation in Hungary at the moment, and they haven't been for a few years. And here we started from an engagement survey that had pretty low results. And from them, several different streams developed, and one of them was drawing up an inspiring vision for the organization. And due to the environment, the business environment, this was not very easy to do. And we did the AI process here only up to the dream phase, because that was the end result they wanted. So at the end, we had a vision that was developed by change agents, and that was the data for these work was coming from about a quarter of the organization. This bank is also quite a big bank, a big organization in Hungarian terms at least, more than 2,000 employees. And what was interesting here, that this was really a speed project. We had 3 weeks to find our change agents. And of course, I mean, if you want to do it in 3 weeks, you're going to have a very stressful 3 weeks, both for the consultants and the organization. But actually, what we could do here is to prepare the network analysis in 4 days, communicate it to the organization in 3 days, give them 1 week to do the questionnaire, and then wait for the reply from change agents for 4 days. So they were only given 4 days to accept this role as change agents if they wanted to. Because this is a very important part of the ChangeMapper, that of course it's very good that other people choose you as a change agent. But do you want to be one? Actually, as I will show you, most people do, but it has to be voluntary in order to work. And then some experiences that we've had with network analysis and using them in change processes. Participation rate is around 70–80%, but you have to take into consideration that usually they don't have much time to fill out the questionnaire. So some people might be on holiday, and that's why they didn't fill it out. But what is maybe more interesting, that it differs from case to case, but sometimes 95, sometimes 70% of the people accept this invitation. And the 70% is completely understandable if you take into consideration that accepting your role as a change leader in this case meant that in 5 days you have to be at a one-day workshop. But what is for me the most interesting part is that when we ask change agents, so why did you accept this invitation? Why do you want to take part in this process? Some of them mentioned that they were motivated to do something for the company, or that they want this change because they feel it's important for the company's future. But most of the comments were about being chosen. So it was not a manager appointing them. They said that they felt honored, or that they were chosen, or that they had a responsibility to these people who appointed them as representatives. There was usually little resistance to non-anonymity because, of course, this is a questionnaire where you have to say people's names. And but ChangeMapper is really a tool where people know what it's going to be used for. It's quite transparent and understandable for them. And as I told you, after the project is over, these people are usually looking for new challenges and want to do it over again. It was very motivating and involving for them. The funny thing is that we've had companies where they had actually a group of change agents that were appointed by managers, not at the same time, but maybe a year ago for different projects. And we could actually look at whether there is a difference between those who are appointed by managers and those who are appointed by the people. And let me tell you, of course, these two groups will overlap, but there is a significant 30–40% difference. So it's not just the feeling of being chosen, but simply managers do not often know who are the opinion leaders in the company. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Anita. And just a short question for the end, because it was really, it was always exciting to hear it, although I've already, of course, heard a lot of both projects. But what was it like for you as a consultant to to take part in this type of change agent identification and involving them in this type of AI interviews?
Well, for me, as you can imagine, to work with a group of people who are very eager and motivated in a change process doesn't happen every day. It's not always the case, and for me, it's always a lot better to start in a way like that. And we've done appreciative inquiry without organizational network analysis, simply on a voluntary basis, and it works great. But the motivation level or the feeling of responsibility might not be the same, or I had the feeling that it wasn't the same.
Well, thank you again for sharing. It was exciting to hear it again. And I just want to check whether Zsófi could join us along the way. We had some technical problems, but let's see if Zsófi is here.
Hello, hello. Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
Zsófi.
Am I audible? Hello.
Yeah, we hear you. So great to connect. So to move on. So how are you? Are you in Germany now already?
I'm in Vérteszőlős. and hi. Yeah. So hi everyone. First of all, I'm sorry for the technical problems, but it seems to be right now.
Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Hello. Zsófi, do you hear us?
Hi. I can hear
Hello.
you. Hello, András. I can hear you. Hello.
Hello, hello. Okay, it seemed like we lost you for a few seconds. So what I think would be really interesting to hear from you, of course, how does a company or how does anyone involved in HR and communication come to the point that you make a decision to let go of the typical process of the top-down communication from management and start to involve and identify and involve influencers in the organization for change communication. How was the process like? Why did you feel that this would be a good decision?
It was a long process why we had to admit that the formal way of communication didn't work. We had just a gut feeling that something is wrong, and we had more and more proof that the top-down communication doesn't work. Information is missing, information flow is slow, and also sometimes messages were hurt, changed, which might cause gossips, as you just mentioned in your session.
Mm-hmm. And what was your expectation? These were your previous experiences. What did you expect by doing it differently and starting from doing it from bottom up?
Probably I will be too straightforward, but it's easier this way. We had a really strong feeling that in many cases the manager is not the leader of the team, and it's by experience. And we hoped we have hoped for a long time that we can find those people who are really leaders and can influence others in change to go toward positive approaches and so on and so on. And the tool, the Maven and the OrgMapper tool was really handy in that situation. That we had a need and we find something which was acceptable for that situation.
And do you remember any challenges that you encountered during the the identification and the involvement process, where you thought that we need to do something about it?
During our common work, you mean?
Yeah, I mean both parts, when we were just focusing on identifying the influencers and also when you were working with them.
Actually, I mainly remember doubts. not problem, but just doubts. For example, whether we should use all the people who are informal opinion leaders, or just those one who are positive, because the attitude counts. Finally, we decided to choose all the opinion leaders, no matter whether they are positive or probably negative towards change, and because we had to work with this population anyhow, and somehow it can be an answer for your second question, whether we had any problems during the implementation and working with them. We use appreciative inquiry, which just was described by Aneta, which is a really positive approach. And during this 3 months, 4 months of involvement with the opinion leaders, we had to work really hard with those who were not positive but were opinion leaders. But the energy, I think, really works because they become supporters finally.
Mm-hmm. So you think that it was really worth it to include the people who were actually negative but still influential. So it's not good to leave them out, right?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I would do next time the same.
Mm-hmm. What was the reaction of the identified influencers on being nominated by their colleagues? What was their they received the invitations to take part in workshops and whatever. What was their initial reaction, or after their initial reaction as well?
We worked really carefully because they got the invitation not from us HR, but we asked the agency to make this invitation, and this way they still had the choice to say no or of course yes. And Aon only got those names who were already positive towards being participation, and these people were really honored or privileged. Just Anita told in case of Erste Bank that people who were nominated and accepted this nomination were really funny or happy with this situation being chosen.
Yeah. And what types of activities were the influencers involved in? And then also, were there different types of roles that you gave to these influencers?
4 years ago, when we started with this informal opinion leader approach, we wanted to ask them, and we wanted to involve them in process involvement, cultural change, to make the company more customer focused, making our decisions smoother, and so on. We made forums, workshops, and that kind of activities, and we let them work. I think it was really important that we gave the empowerment them, and we really let them work. That was the first wave, and after a year, we got an impulse from the parent company to launch Lean. Lean is a I don't know how to say, it's a behavior and manufacturing tool. I guess all of the participants know Lean, and it was a challenge to find people who support the Lean launch, because we were externally supported by a consultant, but it would have been waste of money just based on their experience and not using our internal sources to launch Lean. So when we wanted to launch or implement Lean system, we again asked our opinion leaders to join this movement, and they were really successful in this role. Mm-hmm. It's a game change, but different type of change.
Yeah, and And what was your experience? What were the main outcomes of these workshops? The previous ones and the lean workshops. Did you have any measurable results?
From the first wave, I would say it was just a real strong signal to the company that we have to change, and we have to make it ourselves. We should make it. There were small or minor changes which we launched based of the workshops. There were only one which was really measurable, and we became proud of it. Maintenance colleagues suggested to change the process with their work, how to get the demand from coordinators, and their proposal was accepted, and we could save 10% of time of travel, and also everything which cost of travel with accepting their proposal. So it was a measurable one. The others were mainly minor changes.
Mm-hmm. And we also asked this from Anita, but how would you describe your identified future shapers or influencers? What was it like to work with them and be around them?
Oh, it was really energizing. I love them. They are coming from really different areas, different hierarchy levels. If you can see the screen at the moment, there are people from the graded managers, and on the other screen there are people from the maintenance staff as well. They are really colorful. They are energized. They have their own opinion. They don't dare to tell it. And yeah, the braveness probably is the more strong word for them.
Yeah, thank you very much. And also, as in the case of Anita, it's always great to hear about the energy level of these types of projects, and it's also great to hear because as you said, the first project which we did was 4 years ago, and so you were basically one of the first, I think, HR leaders who realized the importance of this type of bottom-up communication, and it was great to do this type of experimenting and have this type of great results at the end with you. So thank you for joining, and really to sum it up, we really feel that the use of network science can help you a lot. It gives you power to generate large-scale behavioral change in organizations. When you're building an effective team of change agents, you should really focus on the influencers, identifying the innovators, knowledge hubs, and the experts. And by this, you will have the most motivated and engaged change agents you can imagine, who will generate a lot of good ideas and even cost saving, and will help you to reshape your organization to make it more efficient and of course with less resistance from the employees. We were really happy to have all of you join in, and I would give it back to Taylor now, and thank you all for your time.
Hi everyone, it's Taylor again. So we're just going to move into the Q&A portion section of the webinar, and if anybody has any questions right now, please feel free to raise your hand. You're going to have the ability to do that, and we can then answer it privately or publicly so that everybody can hear. So we'll take a few minutes to let you do that, and then we'll move into the Q&A portion. Thank you.
So if you have a question, then please press the raise your hand button you see on the panel on to the right. Yeah, so we have a question from Roberto. Hi, Roberto. Great to hear from you again.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the interesting webinar. Just a question about the the methodology about the hotel case and appreciative the appreciative method. So you did use social network analysis in order to identify the key opinion leaders, you said, and but I was wondering if this is the use you did, but also you use it also in the following steps, or social network analysis is mainly a tool to identify the most central people in the network?
Yeah, and thank you for the question, because it's a great question. And so we, for change communication issues, we typically use the identification of change agents through social network analysis. But besides, this type of change agent identification, in some cases, the client is also interested in, as we showed with the information network of the managers in the factory side, where are the barriers for information flow, which levels are going to not get passed on the information, where they need to put additional focus. And also, in some cases, change processes are about organizational redesign, when you're restructuring processes and also designing the organizational structure. In this case, we also help with insights on what are the critical links between functions, locations, hierarchy levels, where are the efficiency problems or the missing links, and so on. So it depends on what the client needs at the certain change process. In some cases, they really know what type of involvement they need, and they just want a very quick and efficient way of identifying change agents, which will help them to have motivated people. In other cases, they want additional insights on their organization and the critical links and missing links and efficiency problems and so on.
Okay, thank you.
Now we have another question. Mayo?
Yes, this is Hajo. I'm calling from Germany. Thank you very much for the nice webinar. Can you understand me?
Yes, thank you. We hear you well.
Thank you very much. I'm with Uwe Loof, and he sent me to the seminar. Now I have a question. I'm working as a change manager in a huge project at the moment with a client, and we're talking about 1,000 people that are involved in this. And I'm doing this now since 3 years. Now my question is, if you go into analyzing, how are your experiences in terms of unions and in terms of data security and personal data? How do they look at you? I could imagine in my project that they would have a problem with that.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Again, a great one. And I think also Zsófi could share her experiences, because of course Ion also has, a German background and a lot of German organizational, and the legal policies behind. So once you're communicating the survey itself and the whole involvement of change agents through this social network analysis, the most critical part is communicating transparently about why we're asking these types of questions, on nominating people, and exactly stating what is going to happen. Like in the case of Ion, in the communication it was clear that they're going to be involved in future shaping workshops in certain dates, and once they were getting the information from their managers and also through their emails. When they clicked on the survey, they see that yes, these questions should be good for identifying the change agent, so it makes sense to do it this way. On the other hand, of course, we had to talk with the union as well, because they had to know that this is not about identifying people who are on the periphery, who are less connected, who are not the most successful in making connections. It's really about identifying the top influencers, and the process of how we involve them is, I think, critical for privacy, because we don't give out any names, no names without them saying to us in an invitation letter we send out to them, would you like to participate in this type of change management workshop? And they can say no, they can say yes, or they can say I need an additional information. It's just like a privacy setting on any social network site. You are in control of your data, so we don't give out any data that somebody is not giving clear permission for us to do so.
Okay. My point is that, as to my experience, a move like that would be, well, you have to involve the unions before anything starts in that direction. I mean, you could not even try to communicate it, because you have to really go onto a higher level before you start the project, isn't it the case?
Yeah, I think it depends country by country. For instance, in the U.S.
Well, yeah.
But for instance, yeah, we've seen that we worked in German companies, and it's very important, of course, to involve the union in the whole process. And once they understand why this is actually going to be good for everyone and for the people, because they will be able to share their fears, share their thoughts, their ideas, then they will also be motivated, and they will be happy actually that this is happening. And it's not only them who have to represent the people. But you're right that it's very important to involve them.
Yeah, it really has to do with the legal framework in the different countries, and here in Germany it's super strict.
Yes, we know that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So we have another question just here through the messages. Why preparing the questionnaire takes so much time? I recall by presentation close to 3-4 days or even more. Usually, I mean, the administration of the questionnaire doesn't really take time. You just click on ChangeMapper and you have the survey. It's more about having the right profile. I mean, if you want to decide that, for instance, for your change process, it's really important to involve IT experts because it's related to IT processes. Then you need to involve that in the questionnaire, like who are who have the greatest experience and knowledge in IT or ERP systems. In this case, you have to have some kind of preparation internally, but this is not, from the tool itself. So if you know the questions and you know what you want to get out of it, then it's just a click, and then the whole questionnaire is generated. Then you send out the links to the surveys, people fill it out, and at the end you have the results. Yeah, so I don't know if we have any further questions. Let me just check here on our screen. Okay, so at this moment it seems like we have answered the questions, and I would again pass it back to Taylor.
All right. Thank you guys so much for attending today, and thank you for that Q&A session right there. So this is going to be the end of the change management webinar. We're just going to wrap this up right now. And if you have any further questions, or if you want to schedule a demo presentation with myself or Peter or any member of the team, please do not hesitate to contact me. Again, my name is Taylor Cleaves. You can contact me through email or LinkedIn. I think that's a great way to connect. And please feel free to visit our website for more information, or to see some of our latest promotions or any additional information that you may want to gather. Every participant today also is going to receive a follow-up email within a day or two containing the content of the webinar and the presentations which you've seen. Again, thank you so much for attending, and we really hope to see you again on the next webinar. Take a great day.